we're recording.
Okay, here we are once again, and coming to you through Zoom. My name is Consuelo Lara.
I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
And this is Between Two Teachers for Friday, April 24th. And we have a lot of hot topics today.
We're still in the sacred land of the Chochenyo-Kharkin Ohlone community, Native sacred community. And I keep thinking of them every day as we spend more and more time connected to our land. But we'll continue to give them a shout out. But you're right, we have a lot of important things to say today.
Yeah. So we're going to start with, we usually start with the big picture, the federal, and then get down to the local issues. So
right. So let me talk a little bit about the federal circumstances. So the big circumstance of the federal thing for education is that our federal leader, Ms. DeVos, is a believer that, money she has many, she's bringing her own philosophy forward, right? There are ways now to continue to grow privatizing in this time of what is actually scarcity, right? So people take advantage of scarcity to move their own agendas forward. And she's doing that. She's definitely doing that. And when I talk specifically about privatizing in a minute, you'll see how that's happening. But just be aware of on the federal level for us, that is happening. On the state level, our superintendent, Mr. Thurmond, has been very busy. He's been holding a lot of meetings. He's put together, which I thought was really an interesting thing for him to do. He's put together support teams for people, support groups for parents, for students, and for educators, really specific groups so that each of those groups can do webinars, have connections, and just come up with best practices and share problems. So that's been he is about leading a team. He's always been that guy who's good at that, and this is an example of that. He also had a couple of webinars this week, one on COVID in general. He had another one where he's talking about distance learning and how the state can support distance learning, especially in special ed. And then finally, he had one where he talked about the digital divide. And that was very powerful because what he pointed out was that he brought in legislators from the parts of the state that don't have connectivity. Because there's two things. One is having the equipment, right, which our district has because we passed a bond measure and included the first purchase of the equipment in the bond measure. So our own community funded our equipment. But that was unusual, and most districts haven't done it that way. And we've also continued the refresh, and we've continued to train our teachers. But even with us, not all of our teachers went to the training, which was not mandatory. It was done in the summer as a tech university, and it was done several summers in a row. But now everybody is in because of the circumstances. So, but at least the access to equipment is much further along than it is in districts that haven't done this at all. And the access to being connected with the hotspots is further along. Some of these communities literally have nothing. There is no connection, right? Yeah. So they say 95% of the state is connected. But if you live in the 5%, 100% of the 5% is not connected.
Yep.
That Mr. Thurmond had all of the providers, AT&T, Sprint, all of the folks that run the connection services, and the political players, the assembly members from the areas that are not connected. And they all spoke on this call, and it was a Zoom call like this. And at the end of it, he basically set up a task force, which is another thing he's good at doing. He set up a task force between them and said, and we'll come back next week and report on how it goes.
Cool.
So the assembly members whose children are not being served, and the companies are going to meet together to figure out how they can get past whatever barriers there are to service for those children. And that would never have happened if we weren't in this, cataclysmic catastrophe that we're in today. I mean, there's no way that would have ever happened. So it's one of these, unintended consequences, but it has happened here. And he has this other group where he's gotten donations of equipment and donations of hotspots, and the governor has talked a lot about that. So that's been a good thing from the state. The other state news, just an interesting piece of news, is Stockton, which is a very large district. The superintendent of Stockton, Mr. Deasy, who used to be the superintendent in Los Angeles, apparently his resignation was accepted. I think it was Tuesday night by the board. So the Stockton Unified is looking for a new superintendent. And then we get to the county board. The county board had a meeting at the same time as West Contra Costa's meeting. And the interesting thing about that meeting, this is where the privatization comes up, is Caliber Charter School, which is under West Contra Costa, or is in West Contra Costa, but was denied and then approved by the county, so the county oversees it. They were successful in applying for one of the national grants. And so they've received funding from the federal government to continue on, in addition to what they'll get as a charter school, because, as we mentioned last week, they are a nonprofit, and they were eligible to apply and encouraged by the National Charter Organization to apply. And they did. So they're of all of them, they're the only ones that I know of that it's public who have actually received the funding. And then we come to West Contra Costa, which had another very important, significant meeting on Wednesday night.
Yes, on Wednesday night, one of the big issues was the budget, of course, and the budget cuts. And there's been a lot of demand to cut at the top, cut the administration, so in order to do that, there's a lot of consolidating then of duties, and because you still have the same jobs to do, but to restructure the org chart so those things can still get done.
Right.
And to consolidate. And there was even a mention you might do something like have somebody that had been full-time as a coordinator may have to become a principal, but then can also do what they were doing before. I don't know if they get, paid additional or something, but they are going to have to do both. So it's going to be a tricky kind of situation. So they created that as much as they could. And then there were board members who proceeded to nitpick, why is this just recommended? It should be required. Why is this say this? And why doesn't it? I mean, they were just going like proofreading the job descriptions. And there was a lot of them. It was like pages and pages of those. And we got them last Friday. We got them all. And I read through them. And, but these individuals went through and nitpicked every little, and we spent a ton of time just on that over and over and over again, to the frustration of a lot of people, including the public who responded. And I have to say that I agree with a lot of the things that they argued about. So, and I need to share this, one of the public comments. It says, with all due respect to the board, your role as trustee is to set policy, not micromanage the district's day-to-day operations.
That's why you hire the expert.
Yeah, that's not your job to do that. And then, take up all this time. You need to respect the staff to run district operations. That is really such a key point, because there are people that are so disrespectful, and everybody's doing at this time the best they can, what they've got, and everybody's going above and beyond. And rather than acknowledging that, it's just like, just a lot of disrespect. These board meetings are, quite frankly, out of control. I agree with that, and reflect poorly on you all with regard to your role of policy and oversight. It continues to be a major disservice to the district and the community which elected you. So, I mean, that just says it all right there. So, but I don't see it changing. There's people on there they're not gonna change. They really think that they, I don't know, they're in charge of the operations, I guess. And
well,
so,
I mean, I could see if you saw something that was really, that you thought was a serious mistake, then it's your job, because that's what you're doing, is you're reading through things. If you saw something that was really a mistake, it's your job to bring that up. But you had time to bring it up before the board meeting. That's the thing that surprised me. I mean, there are many of the things that were brought up that could have been brought up before, and from what staff said, they hadn't heard this before the meeting itself.
that night, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, board members had been calling other organizations to sort of vet their thinking about the job descriptions. And, you know, before you call other organizations, you probably should talk to the people who are the staff.
Yeah, you would think that.
You would think. You would think. And I mean, just in terms of your role, which isn't to play gotcha, which is sort of sometimes how it comes off, and that's how the public sees it. You know, why are you not on the same team?
Yeah. It's really a setup to publicly, it's like, let's publicly shame, you know, people in the district and show it's a continuous of the narrative. We have to prove this is a failing district. So it just, you build on that narrative. You go over and over and over again with this negativity. You know, it's the whole Fox News approach. You know, you just harp on how horrible everything is and what a bad job everybody's doing until they believe it. And so that's what these people are. But really, what to me, when you do that kind of thing and micromanage, I think you're showing you're incompetent as a board member, because you're not looking at the larger picture, and it's really self-serving. And I think, because that's not your role to do that kind of thing. I looked at the org chart, and they seemed fine to me. I saw the things that I was looking for, except one, and that was marketing. We had talked about that in solutions and the need for that. And, you know, I'm sure somebody will. Actually, what I see is schools doing it, picking it up, like the high schools, how to market their particular school, which is excellent. And we see that lots of times where, especially our school sites will pick up a lot of things that, you know, they don't wait, they run with it. So I do see that happening. That was the only thing I had, but they just went on and on and on. And so that was one thing that was a real big problem. The other was, I was just heartbroken about Manzanita Charter Middle School. This is a parent-run school. Parents run this school. And how hypocritical it is to say, parent involvement. We want parents in the decision-making. We want parents. And making all that demands come from the whole charter people. Here's a school run by parents, and you killed it. You know, you didn't renew it. And the recommendation was for it to be renewed. This is a great little school. And, you know, I was talking to some people that work there, and how, you know, you can't really, the stories of the children are theirs, and the parents and the families are theirs to tell. I'm not going to tell you all the stories of the situations that, how do I put this? A lot of the children that go there are very high need. That's, I guess, extremely high need, more so than other schools. And this was a school they found that where they're safe. They feel safe, and they're leaving, you know, like Dijon or Helms to go there. It's not like, oh, we're going to just go back there. I don't think they would go back there.
They didn't recruit.
So,
that was one of the big differences between them and the charter management organizations, right? There was never any recruitment over all these years, as far as I know, by Manzanita, right? And Manzanita, because it was parent founded and driven, but is very small. I think one of the things is it's had turnover in parents. That's what middle schools have. Every middle school, the turnover is you're not there for 8 years like you are in an
No,
elementary school, right?
no.
Not even 4 years like you are in a high school.
Yep.
You're in and out, and so that turned out to be true for Manzanita as well with their teachers, and so it was difficult, and with administration. So I think one of the things that a parent-driven school, I mean, I do think it would make sense for them or for the district to look into a way to do to have a model. I don't care what it's called. It could be called an affiliated charter. It could be called whatever you want to call it, but just have a model that allows for more parent access by having a parent council that does a lot of the kinds of innovation that they had in what was a much smaller middle school than we have right now. Right? It's not a bad model. It's just that now it's probably not going to, unless they have the opportunity to bring it to the county and then to the state. We don't know what will happen with that, but and otherwise these students will apply to go to other schools, and they can go to other charter schools and go anywhere. They can apply to schools within the district or whatever they choose to do.
Yeah, it was just a very sad situation, and it felt like it was a political thing because based on politics, because they all four of them came already with their minds made up. That was clear because they did not ask her one question. Not one question. She did not have the principal there did not have the opportunity to share anything about her school. What does that tell you? Again, incompetence, as far as I'm concerned. That's your opportunity.
What's interesting is that there wasn't, I mean, it's part of the circumstances around having Zoom meetings and all the issues around the pandemic. They didn't get the same opportunity to bring their team in to share out, right? That's just much harder to do under these circumstances. So that was sort of a disadvantage, put them at a disadvantage as well.
Yeah, that's true. We did get some nice letters from a few parents. I'm gonna try to champion this school as much as I can. It's truly grassroots. It is parent run. They don't follow the party line of CCSA and TFA and all of those. And like you said, they don't advertise. They want to just be a good school for the high need students that they have.
Right.
And they're a family. They're a little family, very modest, humble school that's in a church. For crying out loud.
They needed to have some other support for their teachers, because they're a small team and there's been turnover. It's they don't have the support that the teachers are able to get in a larger school.
But I do have to say, Ms. Caldwell, she works really well with professional collaboration. She understands. She is excellent at collaboration.
And she's their principal, right? Ms. Caldwell is the principal.
Caldwell is the principal and has worked with administrators and teachers at both DeJean and Helms. So they work together. They don't compete.
That's good.
They are, those are some of her biggest fans, in fact, there. And she just thinks very highly of many of the teachers there. So they have this mutual respect and collaboration. They truly work as a team. I mean, this is a model for so much that we need to be accomplishing.
This was the original charter model. They came into being 20 years ago when the charter model, before Prop 39, before all of these other rules came into play that could be abused, right before there were charter management organizations.
Exactly. It's just the glaring difference. That's the thing, and I don't understand it. I do think it was kind of like a personal vendetta, like a revenge thing for people that, because I was brought up that, who started the school, and then, so they didn't care about the children. None of them were thinking about.
Now that really was an interesting point. All right, so we had a staff member who had been involved in the start of that school, but we never asked people about their resumes? When do you ask anybody where else they've worked? How do we know where else anybody has worked? That really hasn't come up.
Only if you want to attack them. Only
Yeah.
if you are, you know, out to get them. And again, play gotcha. So we're not giving up on that school, and there are some options. And like you said, we can pursue that affiliated. But I don't know if this would be a good time, because this board doesn't get it. They wouldn't understand the concept. I don't think they wouldn't see. They don't see the value. They don't understand the concept. They don't see the big picture, in my mind.
Well, I think that the other part of that is that this is such an unusual time, right? People are so distracted by all of the things that are so different, and it's probably not, you're right, it's probably not the time to bring something very new in like that.
Right. So
because it's sort of like the Mandarin school, which was totally different.
Yeah.
Right? The dual immersion Mandarin school, which we were able to start, but we didn't have the distractions we have now.
Exactly. It came at the right place, the right time, and got all the support. And yeah, it was the perfect storm. And so the next thing is to go to the county with that. So that is one thing that we're going to do. And I think that's about it for the.
Well, the other big thing was the loss of the folks that were laid off.
Oh, the layoff notices, yes. And so sometimes, you know, we ask about, there's a suggestion that they may come back, or they may not, or they, and you get this, everything is up in the air. We don't know. But yeah, we voted to pass the resolution for those layoffs. And actually, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to have to letting go either of contracts or of people. You know, what else are we going to do? We're in a
contracts for sure, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just such a time of uncertainty, because nobody knows what it's going to look like. Really, we don't know what it's going to look like to come back in August. It's not clear that everything is going to just be the same. It's just that is not at all clear. And to the degree that teachers are going to be expected to continue some level of distance learning, then it would be time to actually have teachers have a deeper understanding of distance learning. I mean, there are programs where you get a degree in distance learning, where you take some training in how to set everything up, and they've done it. I mean, everybody's been thrown into it. But now, I mean, at some point, we're going to have to step back and say, all right, now here's how you can compare what you've done with what you would have done if you had gone through this 8-week, training, or this 6-month training to learn how to be a distance learning expert, as opposed to somebody who just set up a remote classroom in an emergency and have done fabulous things with them. But there's a lot of things I think they still don't know that they can learn, right?
Yeah, and I think the privatizers, probably they're salivating.
Yes.
About, they think public education is going to go totally online.
Yes.
They can get in on that piece of money, but that's not going to happen.
No.
Because you're not going to take the place of a child going to the classroom and having a relationship with their teacher. And maybe even over the years, when we talked about looping.
Yes. Did anybody talk about that? Was that brought up to you now?
No.
So we should put it out here. This is a time to talk about looping.
Okay. So looping is the idea that a teacher follows the child through the grades and stays with them for a certain amount of time. It's elementary, or inadvertently, I realized I did looping at Helms Middle School, because I taught ELD 1s and 2s. So I had them for ELD 1. The next year I had them for ELD 2. And what sticks out the most to me is the parent. When I talk to the parent, oh, they have you again. Oh, that's so great. And then we just pick up where we left off. There's no getting to know them all over again and making contact. They felt comfortable with me. I felt I knew them. And so it was really great. And the kids trust, the kids, just, they love that, really.
And what we have right now is the trauma of loss of the relationship between the all teachers and their students. So one way that you could have a response to that trauma, especially in elementary school, but actually, you know, there are ways you could try to do it throughout the whole system, is to look at whether or not there is some way to do looping. And what that would mean, it's happened. Many of our teachers have done it. Many sites have done it. And certainly nationally people have done it. And the Waldorf program is based on it. The entire Waldorf program is a discipline that's set up for students who enter kindergarten and stay with the same teacher all the way till senior year.
Wow.
That's based on a relationship. The class stays together.
Yeah.
Right. So looping is the way it's been done here. Is you could have a teacher who does kindergarten in 1. Right. So the children are with that teacher for 2 years, and when their studies have been done, surprise, surprise, the teachers who you don't have this new period of time to have to get to know the kids at the beginning of the year. You continue as a team. Right. That's it. And in this case, you continue. You'd be able to restore, continue talking about the trauma of the separation, how things went when you were online. But it would also mean you could maybe continue what you're doing online because you'd be with the same children. Anyway, it's definitely something to explore. I hope that whoever is listening to this, if you have any connection to education, put this out as an idea. If teachers in a district or in a school site are trying to find a way to stay connected to their children, this is a way to do it. And maybe you can do it by team teaching. Maybe it's just an idea to be able to keep that relationship solid and not have to grieve it the way so many relationships are being grieved now, right?
Yeah.
Where all of the things we've lost. So I know we mentioned it to Mr. Gonzalez, and to see if the teachers would, to see what he wanted to do with the teachers, because this has to come from the teachers.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
Yeah, there's no other.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about how at the beginning of the school year, you spend sometimes weeks building the relationship,
Exactly. This would be
that. Boom, you've got it. Let's get to the
this would make up for the learning loss. Think about it.
Yes.
Right? All that learning loss time.
Yeah.
No, we're still together.
Yeah.
We're still together, and we're still working it out together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's something that really has to be looked at seriously as a possible, not a total solution, but anyway, if you're going to as a strategy to try to reduce the learning loss.
Yeah, and as far as distance learning, I think the teacher of the future is going to have the skills, a hybrid skill level,
right?
Where
blended
learning, where
learning.
We gotta go online, kids. Okay, see you when you get back, and then it's set up, and you got the skills, they got the skills, but it's not ever going to go completely. Who would want to go completely online for their education? You want to be with people,
right?
And,
right. But you can also do it. I mean, we've talked about CTE, right? There are ways that that blended learning can work for CTE, because you can bring in the outside. You can bring industry partners in to the classroom. They don't want to have to come into every classroom, but the fact that you can we're now comfortable with doing webinars. We're comfortable with being on Zoom. We can be able to bring folks in to do online job shadows, online mentoring, all the things that we've talked about, but always had the question of being ready to use technology as the reason not to do it. Well, that's gone. We can use it now. And that means that a student who is in one of our high schools and wants to be in a pathway that's offered in another high school might be able to do that.
They'd have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's excellent idea.
Right. We had talked about this years ago, but there are all these barriers. The barriers are all gone now.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what this virtual meetings have shown, some of the people that I meet with, they said, even after we're able to meet together, we should still keep this going, because there were people that never participated and now they are. So,
Right.
I mean, the idea is so our futurists, they got to get to work and reimagine a new future for education. And it's not all going to get privatized and all.
No, it doesn't
online.
have to. We have to just be very specific about what we're, where you're spending your money. Before you take the deal, you have to really take a look at what you're looking at and look at what has been developed nationally that is owned by, nationally. So like Engage New York has curriculums. There are curriculums that are available that are not, that are not as expensive as other ones. So we have to be really conscious of all of that. It's new territory for a lot of people, but that's where we are.
Yes, yes. So that's a little hopeful note there.
Yeah, there's our hopeful note.
Yes. Okay.
I think the last thing we've got to do is shout out. I want to do a shout out again to the food services folks in the district, and in particular to Barbara Jellison, who I know is coordinating all of it. And it's gone on for all these weeks. I mean, I don't know how many volunteers she has there now. I mean, day after day, day after day after day.
Well, did you, I don't know if you heard in the superintendent's report, but they've opened up a second kitchen in order to.
Where's that?
They, it was at one of the high schools. It's listed on the,
Good for them.
Greenwood, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where they.
Right.
And then also they've found places where they could put some refrigeration tanks or cabinets or whatever you call it for storage of the food, because food's going to be a big issue. And one of the things I suggested, let's bring back victory gardens.
Yes.
And at our schools, so that they can give away some foods to the neighborhoods around our different schools. So there's that. But they're really working on it, taking that very seriously to provide food for our families. I mean, I agree with you on those shout outs. We have, no matter what happens, we have people going above and beyond helping others. And that's why it just pains me, the haters who will come out and, just nitpick instead of respect and admiration for appreciation for everything everybody's doing. This is a life and death situation, and they are doing amazing things, isn't it? So yes, shout out to those food service people for sure. Mm-hmm.
So we've come down to the joke. I don't know if we have a joke.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I was sent a joke by our
cameraman. Because he knew it's his weekly job.
He automatically sent it to me.
Good for him.
He says, okay, so Madeline, what kind of school do you think, what kind of school do you go to if you're an ice cream man?
If I'm an ice cream man, I don't know. What kind of school do I go to if I'm an ice cream man?
You go to Sunday school.
Oh.
Ice cream Sunday.
Right there. He is right there. Yeah. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you. We're going to give you a surprise. We're going to have an extra episode this week, right?
Yeah. Yes. We're going to have a guest speaker. Mike Hutchison from Oakland. He's an activist there in Oakland. And
so look for that. That's going to be posted very soon. See you soon.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Did you turn off the recording?